News First, Newsline.
A very good evening to you and welcome. This is Newsline. Tonight, our topic of discussion revolves around the Aswasma program, which is coming in place of the Samurdhi beneficiary program in Sri Lanka, beginning 1st of July. To discuss all this and more, I've invited a guest to our studios, who is the chairman of the Welfare Benefits Board in Sri Lanka, Mr. B. Vijayaratna. A very good evening, Mr. Vijayaratna, and welcome to Newsline.
Very good evening.
Starting off, Mr. Vijayaratna, the tagline of the Aswasma program is, "Indeed for the in need." Is it really representing the poverty levels of Sri Lanka, and those who are in need, do they get the real benefit out of this program?
To my knowledge and to my gauge, yes, indeed for in need. We are trying to create a social registry ever never in the history in Sri Lanka welfare benefits arena. So therefore, this is the very first exercise having applied the multidimensional approach to select in transparent way the eligible persons for welfare benefits. So therefore, we are trying to create a history in welfare arena of Sri Lanka.
Mr. Vijayaratna, if this so-called program is done in a transparent way, why are there so much of protest in Sri Lanka at this moment of time against this program in question?
There might be several reasons behind that, because that it is being created the unrest among the people, because now you know that money and the monetary terms will be some sort of salient factor for agitation and the uprising and the unrest. Therefore, I think that is the reason behind.
So, if you look at the numbers itself, Mr. Vijayaratna, it's important for us to understand how many people were being benefited out of this program, which is called the Samurdhi Beneficiary Program, which was launched by Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga's era. And let's look at these numbers very well now. So, right now, approximately around 2 million to 2.8 million people get benefited through the Samurdhi Beneficiary Program. Yes or no?
Yes, frankly speaking, that 1.7, later it was amount to 2.8.
Right, so the numbers stand at 2.8 million at the moment.
Yes, with a huge inclusion error.
Right. Let's keep that aside for the moment in terms of inclusion. That is because of the government bureaucracy that has taken place. Let's not discuss about that at the moment. But let's talk about these numbers in particular. Let's talk about how this is reflective. Right now, if you look at the cost of living indexes, and based on the data released by the Government Statistics Department, approximately around 35% of the poverty level has increased because of the rising cost of living in Sri Lanka. So I'm a bit of a numbers guy, Mr. Vijayaratna. So if you look at these numbers, 2.8 million individuals are right now getting benefited. You add 35% to that number, which comes to approximately around 3.8 million. That is 980,000 people plus that 35%. So approximately at least 3.8 million people in Sri Lanka should be benefited with any program that has been launched, isn't it?
Right. Okay. Let me explain that. Now that total householdings of the country is 5.7 according to the Statistics Department statistics. So out of that, 40% is generally treated as the poor sector, so poor segment of the society. That means 2.8. Now, as I mentioned, that our focus and our coverage is being families, 2 million. Family is contained with 4 members. Then 2 million families by 4, that means 80 million people or the persons. And plus these individuals, CKDU, disabled and adult, another 500,000. So therefore altogether 85 million people will be covered under this Asasama program.
85 million people, the population in Sri Lanka is also 22 million people.
Yeah, now that
Mr. Vijayaratna, how did you arrive at that number?
No. That I did a mistake. 2 million people, that means 8 million. 8 million plus 5, 8 million plus 5, 100,000, 8.5.
So 8.5 million people.
Sorry, 8.5.
8.5 million people are eligible for any poverty level program that has been launched in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
But if you look at these numbers, only 2.3 million people are being benefited. So you're saying that there are 6 million people who are supposed to be benefited are not being benefited.
No. 2 million families, household. 2 million household. 2 million household multiplied by 4. That means average size of the family.
So you're saying under this particular program in question, 2 million households are being benefited.
Yeah.
So there are applications to the tune of approximately 3.72 million, Mr. Vijayaratna. Out of that, only 2.3 million people are being looked into and been given this concession in question. So you're saying 2 million people are the only 2 million households are the number that comes into account when we speak about the Asasama program, but then the number stands at 2.3 million. So definitely there seems to be a discrepancy with how these numbers have been arrived at.
No, population and the household is a different definitions are there, no? So what is household? What is
I am basing my questions based on what you are saying, Mr. Vijayaratna.
Yeah.
So you are saying 2.3 million households are being benefited through the Asasama program.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yeah, yes.
But then you spoke about the numbers. You
Yeah.
spoke about the 8 million people who have been who are under the poverty line in Sri Lanka, and you divided that by 4, and the number was arrived at 2 million. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So 2 million households.
Yes.
But under this program that you're talking about, you just said earlier, 2.3 million people are being benefited.
Yeah.
So then there seems to be discrepancy of 300,000 families as well. So there seems to be, if someone who's looking from outside, that the politicians are having a hand in these figures as well. Just as I mentioned about the bureaucracy that took place in the Samurdha beneficiary program.
No. Asasama scheme, there was a technical committee appointed by the Secretary to the President, and that technical committee submitted a report. Based on that report, that Asasama welfare benefit scheme was developed.
So
it is.
So how did you all gauge these numbers? You all went from house to house.
Yeah.
And took the applications?
Yeah.
Was that the program, how it was launched?
Yes.
And it was computed based on a application?
Yeah. Asasama app.
Who handled the application?
Applications, the app.
Yeah, the app, who handled
it is downloaded to the mobile phone of the particular officers, village level officers, and village level officers, nearly about 50% was reluctant to support the program. Therefore, government decided to recruit the youth who passed the O level at least and employed as the enumerators, and they are going house to house. They were going to house and collect the data provided by the families or the individuals or the householder of the family.
So you're saying, Mr. Vijayaratna, that the data with relating to one of the biggest programs in Sri Lanka to alleviate poverty in the island was collected by O-level students in the country.
Yes, because that we expected that village level officers, Gamanildaris and Samudinildaris and economic development officers are willing to support us to collect the data being the enumerators, but they were reluctant.
Why were they reluctant?
Reluctant because that they wanted to change the act, especially the section 21 and 22 of the Welfare Benefit Act has to be erased out. So government upon the request made by the unions, we wrote to the Attorney General, Honorable Attorney General, and Honorable Attorney General was of the view that there is no necessity of amending the Welfare Benefit Act.
Mr. Vijayaratna, do you agree that people in Sri Lanka are living in dire straits at this moment of time. They are finding it very, very difficult to live. Let's forget about this Aswasma program. Let's forget about the Samurdhi programs at the moment. Do you agree? Do you see that there is a problem?
Yeah, that is very obvious, very obvious, I admit.
So, don't you think that the people, the number which stood at 2.8 million has to increase technically and should not be decreased, because at the end of the day, the number of families who come into this social net should be more.
Yeah, yes, I admit that. Please understand what is the given situation in the country. What is the situation in the country? How that a lot of people are looked after by the government, being the treasury is absolutely nothing there, and they deteriorating the income and the tax collection, everything is there, no production. So when the government collect the revenue,
Mr. Vijay,
because that revenue, based on the revenue, we have to expend, no?
Yeah, Mr. Vijay, are you trying to tell me that the people are responsible for the situation in Sri Lanka at the moment?
I don't know. What I am saying is the existing situation of the country. So, particularly if we take the social welfare as a silo and take alone, and we speak about or discuss about the welfare system itself, or confine into the welfare system, then it's okay. Because we have to have the wider helicopter view of the society
but the point is,
economy.
Mr. Jaratna, but the point is, those who are protesting in the streets are those who have voted in respective governments into play. Why are they being held responsible for a situation which is not their own? Now, you itself said, Mr. Vijayaratna, that the Samurdhi beneficiary program, which stood at 1.7 million, because of political reasons, was increased to 2.8 million.
Now,
who's at fault?
That's what the reforms is required.
That's the people who are on the streets who are responsible.
In the history, there was some sort of difficulties and some sort of mischievous and the wrongdoing. So now that's why the reform is requested. No, now why? Because government wanted to introduce reforms. That's the reason. That right time, right decision has not taken.
Mr. Vijayaratna, you would have heard the statement that was issued by the minister himself, who's in charge of this program, Minister Shehan Singh, the state minister concerned. He's saying that those who are not getting the benefit can do an appeal, and if there is an individual who is not supposed to get the benefit, if he or she is getting the benefit, you can complain about it. It's like very similar to the electricity problem, Mr. Vijayaratna. Remember, a couple of months ago, when the government started cutting electricity or disconnecting electricity, they said if there is someone who's getting power, and those who are not getting power should go and complain to the electricity board about this. What is this, Mr. Vijayaratna? Is that a practical solution? Is that how governments or the governance structure in the country should work? You have been an SA law officer for a very long time.
Let me explain. This is the transparent selection process has to be in place in order to identify the very correct persons to receive the welfare benefit of the country. But in the past, what has happened, other way round. That's why reform is requested, reform is needed. That's why we are trying to do some sort of reform in the country as far as welfare benefit schemes in the country.
Mr. Vijay, do you agree that the people who are getting this benefit, who are eligible for the Aswasma program or the Samurdhi beneficiary program, are those who are living below the poverty line, and their literacy level is very, very low? You all went on a campaign last August after the Aragalaya, saying that those who are in need should be registered they have to raise their voice in terms of whether they are eligible to the program or not. Is that the way you do it? You just have a paper application.
Yes, we had.
You think the people who are living below the poverty line, who's accessing 2,500 rupees per month, will have money to go and buy a paper at 125 rupees.
No. That application was widely available because the sample was. Then how could we
available?
Then how could we register the 3.7 million people in
this
the
also must system? Be political. This also must be political.
No.
That is what you are saying, Mr.
There is no politics as far as assessment is concerned. This is a very objective process, very objective program. So I frankly say that no political hand behind the assessment program. But that's how that the 3.7 million were registered. They registered in our system. So we didn't distribute the application among the people. We just sample application was there in the paper. By using that, they submitted their application. So empowering people, that is the necessary mindset to be in the country.
Right. We're going for a short commercial break. We are in conversation with Mr. B. Vijayratna, Chairman of the Welfare Benefits Board, with regard to the assessment program that has been launched. There are many questions that come to my mind when we speak about this issue at hand. We're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll have more on this subject.
News First, Newsline.
Debt restructuring plan presented to Cabinet. President meets parties representing the ruling faction. Address the nation and reveal the debt restructuring plan. Opposition leader tells President. Protests against the Aswasuma welfare benefit scheme continue even today. Proposal to reinstate local government institutions that were dissolved. Gazette issued announcing the government's intention to amend 3 acts. Sediments of oil cover the Sarakua beach in Negombo once more.
සංචාරක හා හෝටල් ක්ෂේත්‍රයේ දෙස් විදෙස් රැකියා අපේක්ෂාවෙන් සිටින ඔබ වෙනුවෙන් MIM වෙතින් නවතම පාඨමාලා දෙකක්.
Certificate course in food and beverage, certificate course in kitchen.
මෙරට ප්‍රමුඛ පෙළේ හෝටල් තුළ ප්‍රායෝගික පුහුණුව සමග සුපවේදය පිළිබඳ ඔබේ කුසලතා ඔප්නංවා ගැනීමට අවස්ථාව.
Call 076-8822-707 now. Register via www.mim.lk. MIM Fox Faculty.
News First, Newsline.
Welcome back. This is News First, Newsline. I am in conversation with Mr. B. Vijayratna, Chairman of the Welfare Benefits Board on the Aswasama program. Mr. Vijayratna, now, if you look at the history of this program in question, you would have noticed that the real issue would have raised in the year 2002. When the bill was being presented, and if you look at the regime that was in power at that time, was the Ranil Wickremesinghe regime. Ranil Wickremesinghe was the Prime Minister, Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga was the President at that time. And several years later, several decades later, now it's being spoken about again. Don't you think this is all about pushing the ideologies of a regime that couldn't perform in the year 2002, and they're trying to do that now, hoodwinking the people and hitting their stomach at the end of the day?
Whose ideology? Ideology of the people. Because that it was passed in 2002 by the parliament. Parliament means the opposition and the government. With the consent of the vote or without vote, it was passed. So ideology of the people.
So you're saying the ideology,
of the country.
Right? So you're saying, Mr. Vijayratna, the ideologies of the people are being represented in Parliament. Am I right?
I think.
Right. So let's talk about.
Being the democratic society.
Right. So let's talk about the views that are being expressed in Parliament right now. Jagat Kumar, Member of Parliament representing the Sri Lanka Pulujana Peramuna, is against this bill.
But
Sajith Premudas, leader of the opposition, is against this
majority,
bill.
With the majority.
Dr Haruna Issah, Member of Parliament, MPP, against this bill. Maithripala Sirisena against this bill.
Yes. Now that when we submit
that is not parliamentary democracy.
Let me explain. Right. When we submit this Aswasuma welfare benefit scheme to the parliament, it was debated whole one day, and without vote it was passed. That is the consent of the parliament. It mirrors the consent of the people.
But you know, Mr. Vijayratna, what happened last year, the Aragale that happened. The parliament does not reflect. The parliament doesn't reflect the people's mandate at the end
Yeah,
of the
what
day.
Taragale requested? What Taragale requested?
They requested
the
change.
systems.
Yes,
systems
but
and reforms.
they didn't expect 2.8 million Samruddhi beneficiary program to be reduced to 2.3 million.
Because why? Because why? The taxpayer wanted to use the money being collected as the tax in a prudent way.
Mr. Vijayaratna, now we are paying, as in the private sector, 36% of the tax.
Yeah.
Right, from our income.
Yeah.
Right. How is this being utilized? Forget about all these programs. How is this being utilized?
So you mean that you collected money to be distributed among the people without any reason or without any rationale?
What is the transparent way?
The transparent way.
This is not, this piece of paper is not the most transparent way.
No.
If you have to look at the social net, the safety net, you have to have a proper program.
You see the process we applied, whether it is transparent or not, before gauging without knowledge or without reasons, without facts. You are saying that it is not transparent. Transparent way.
Now, Mr. Vijayaratna, you are a political appointee now. In
No,
2019, you were serving 3 months under Ranil Wickremesinghe as a Prime Minister.
I am
now
not
again.
I am not the political man. I am not the political man. I am not the political man. I retired from the government service, and the government selected myself and appointed myself being the chairman of the Welfare Benefit Board. So within almost 1 year, I have completed my task. That social registry is upcoming now.
No, but that 1 year, Mr. Vijayaratna, if you look at it, was Ranil Wickremesinghe's term as the
I
president.
don't mind. I don't mind who is the political authority or who is ruling the country. I was asked and I signed myself. Please do this.
Yeah, so, Mr.
So my intention and my task and my purpose is the giving effect to the program.
Yeah, giving effect, Mr. Vijayaratna, we are not contesting relating to your position or whatever it is. What we are contesting is the way in which this program has been rolled out.
Yeah, yes.
Don't you think that the people have to have more opportunities to express their views? The social safety net of Sri Lanka should be more widened, should be more broader.
Yeah, yes.
And all these programs have to be there.
Theoretically, 100% okay.
So
I agree with your agreement.
So if you agree, why are you doing this?
Yes, wide coverage must be there. Wide coverage must be there. But who paid the money? Then your 36% tax rate would be higher than that.
Mr. Vijayaratna, this is not what I am saying, right? Now,
No,
you all are saying,
because you said that you paid that your tax rate is 36%.
Yeah, so I am quoting Dr Haruna Issah's Member of Parliament NPP speech. She's saying that if people are supposed to be benefited out of a program like this, and as you say that money has to be prudently spent.
Yeah.
Why you organize these Aurudu programs? Why you organize these programs for carol services? What is the need of all this, Mr. Vijayaratna? If let's say we are buying what you are saying. You are saying we should not spend money unnecessarily. Tell me about this.
I am not endorsing such type of expenditure. I am not endorsing. I don't admit.
So you are saying that is wrong.
That is wrong.
So the government has to take proper action relating to that.
Because the money is given by the tax.
Absolutely. That is why the people are saying those who are in need of money should be ultimately get that benefit.
So that is up to the government. That is up to the government, being the innocent public officer.
But don't you think?
I am not responsible for that.
Mr. Vijay, don't you think if this program is rolled out, few months from now, there will be more people on the streets? Isn't that concerning to the government?
Yes, because of the economic crisis and the plague, aftermath of the plague. I know. I admit that.
So the government knows. The government knows that there is going to be a program. So they are shooting themselves on the foot.
Yes. Now that's why we have divided the poor people into the 4 categories: transitional, vulnerable, and the poor and the ultra poor. Because why? Because of this plague and the economic crisis, the people who were above the poverty line went to the came to the below the poverty line. So therefore, we identified them for 400,000 people as the transitional people.
Yeah, but Mr.
Group.
So, Mr. Vijayaratne, if you look at the numbers, I told you this
Yeah,
before,
yeah.
35% of the population has got poor.
Arithmetic
Then
and the
980,000 people
yeah.
have to be added to the list, not 100,000 people.
Theoretically, yes, debatable, and for the sake of argument, you are perfect. You are very perfect. Argument's sake. But we have to understand the real and the ground situation of the country.
So, Mr. Vijayaratne, when people go onto the streets like this, when
Yeah.
people are protesting like this, what is the government resort at the end of the day? What will the government do about these
So,
people?
any-
So they'll just die, is it?
Any reform program anywhere in the world,
So they'll just
resistance
die.
is there. Resistance is natural.
No, you're
once
saying-
they
it's not about
once they
resistance.
realize the real truth of the program, they will understand, and the upcoming or the uprowing and the unrest will be receiving.
So the government
receding.
doesn't care if people die in this process.
No, not die, because we have to produce more and more to produce. That being this is not the answer for agitation or the creating unrest in the society. So we have to think about that as to how we survive, get rid of this economic down situation, economic crisis. So as a citizen whole in the country, we have to understand.
So when the economic crisis, Mr. Vijayaratne,
Yeah.
worsens and deepens more and more,
Yeah.
the people who are below the poverty line, this expands.
Yeah.
They are put into the plant
that
more
is the,
and more.
That is the natural.
And you think these people will have the means of lifting themselves up, being the more resilient nation that Sri Lanka is, and correct themselves and find a phoenix from the ashes to help them.
Right. That's what that empowering program is required. Empowering program is required. That's what the welfare benefit schemes the real meaning. So we are giving the selected eligible person some sort of allowance. In the meantime, that some of the department has to launch their the empowering program to get the people out of the poverty. So otherwise we can talk about the poverty that people can struggle in the street long and long.
Mr. Vijayaratne, for argument's sake, your system is good.
That
You
is
told
also-
for me
that
also,
is also the-
you said argument's sake everything is good. Now when you say it like this, it looks like practical. But argument's sake, it's right.
No.
But practically it doesn't happen. It has never happened in Sri Lanka before.
Then tell me the way out.
The way out is to broaden this net.
No, how can we broad? We have that wide heart, but a small pocket.
And the government is responsible, and the people are responsible.
No. Anyhow, government means who? Who is the government? Government is citizen. Citizen elect the government.
Mr. Vijayaratne, as you told me before, for argument's sake, what you're saying
Yeah.
sounds all good,
So-
well and good. But you know that come a few months, people are going to be on the streets once again, and it may be even worse than what we saw last year.
Yes, that is the normal behavior of the citizen. So government will look after that one.
Let's pray hard and ensure that we don't slide back to what we witnessed in Sri Lanka a couple of months ago. What we have to now look at is coming out of that rut and ensuring that we move forward as a nation to ensure that everyone who lives below the poverty line gets their benefit at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, it's not their fault. It's the governance, it's the governments that have been in power. Those individuals are at fault. Take care and good night. Thank you very much, Mr. Jad, for joining us this evening on Newsline.